The film industry dazzles with lights, glamour, and applause. But behind the shimmering curtains lies a darkness few dare to speak about. A world where dreams can flourish and yet crumble in a heartbeat. In this world there was Sandhya Balakrishnan, a woman whose life was meant to shine with success and fame. She had the charisma, the dreams, and the determination to make her mark. But fate, as cruel as it can be, had other plans. A single wrong step, a single moment of misplaced trust, and the life she dreamed of became the stage for a tragedy that would shock an entire state. What really happened to her? How did a thriving life suddenly descend into horror? These questions would haunt everyone from family to police. And today we unravel the story that stunned Tamil Nadu. Sandhya's journey began in the small village of Thalai in Kanyakumari district. A modest home, modest means, and dreams bigger than the narrow lanes she grew up in. Her parents ran a tiny tea shop, and money was always tight. Education was a luxury she could only partially afford. She studied till the 7th grade before leaving school. Yet she had a spark, a light that shone through her simplicity. Even as a young girl, she knew she wanted more than the limits life had drawn around her. She dreamed of success, recognition, a life that defied the boundaries of her small village. At the tender age of 16, those dreams were interrupted by marriage. She was wed to Balakrishnan, a man 14 years her senior. He was a figure of influence, a politician, later a film producer and director who initially drew her attention to the world of politics before guiding her toward cinema. Despite the age gap, Sandhya adapted quickly to her new life in Thuthukudi district, where her husband's family resided. Her world expanded to include in-laws, extended family, and later 2 children. A daughter and a son whose lives would soon become entangled in a story far darker than anyone imagined. Life in her husband's home was ordinary on the surface, but subtle tensions simmered beneath. Sandhya's ambitions were growing. She wanted more than domestic life. She wanted to act, to create, to carve a place for herself in the film industry. Balakrishnan, though initially supportive, gradually became possessive, suspicious, and controlling. Their relationship, once steady, began to strain. Arguments about trust, jealousy over attention, and disagreements about her career started to escalate. Yet Sandhya's resolve didn't waver. She moved to Chennai, giving auditions, taking small roles in serials and low-budget films, trying to carve a name for herself in a world notoriously hard on newcomers. The turning point came in January 2019. Sandhya decided to visit Chennai for the Pongal festival with her husband. She carried with her savings of around 75,000 rupees, thinking of auditions, small roles, and perhaps a fresh start. But something went terribly wrong. On January 19th, as she packed to return home, she disappeared. Calls went unanswered, messages were ignored, days passed. Her family, growing increasingly anxious, could not reach her. Even her husband seemed unusually detached, giving conflicting statements that only deepened the mystery. What could have happened to her during these few short days? Meanwhile, in Chennai, a chilling discovery began to unfold. On the morning of January 21st, workers at a dumping yard in Perungudi noticed something unusual. Amid heaps of garbage, a human hand protruded from a plastic bag. Panic spread instantly. The authorities were called. As forensic teams arrived and carefully opened the bag, they discovered more. 2 legs, a torso, and eventually 4 separate body parts scattered across the city's dumping sites. The horror was unprecedented. Who had done this, and why? The meticulous nature of the crime suggested a mind not only capable of murder but careful planning, a chilling patience that left investigators scrambling for answers. Forensic experts confirmed the victim was female, approximately 35 to 40 years old, with distinct tattoos on her right hand, a dragon, and images of Shiva and Parvati. Clues that could lead to identification. Authorities launched a massive manhunt, spreading information across Chennai, neighboring districts, and even adjoining states. Media outlets amplified the story, printing posters, broadcasting alerts, and questioning locals, but every lead seemed to fizzle. The city was gripped with fear and fascination in equal measure, as the gruesome discovery left citizens questioning how such brutality could exist in their midst. 2 weeks passed without progress. Then, on February 5th, Sandhya's mother, Prasanna Devi, arrived at Thoothukudi police station filing a missing person report. She revealed the unsettling details of her daughter's last days, recounting her travel plans, her visits to Chennai, and the last conversation that hinted at her return. Recognition came quickly when forensic evidence, coupled with personal items like bangles and tattoos, confirmed the unthinkable. The body parts belonged to Sandhya. Shock rippled through her family, her community, and the investigators. A case that began as a disappearance had escalated into a meticulously planned murder. Police pressure intensified. A team was dispatched to interrogate Balakrishnan at his Chennai residence. His reaction was oddly calm, almost composed. Yet under questioning, cracks began to appear. The man who once shared dreams with his wife now revealed the depths of obsession, jealousy, and resentment that had been festering for years. Confessions followed, as horrifying as the evidence gathered. Balakrishnan led the authorities to other locations where he had disposed of Sandhya's body, reconstructing the sequence of events in a way that left no doubt about his guilt. The meticulous planning, the cold execution, and the unfeeling disposal of a human life were all laid bare, shattering any illusion of domestic harmony that might have existed. But even as the confession came, questions lingered. How could a couple who once shared a life together descend into such darkness? What pressures, insecurities, and obsessive fears had driven a husband to such extremes? And how does a society, a community, or even a police force respond to such horror while trying to maintain faith in justice? The city of Chennai was still reeling from the discovery of Sandhya Balakrishnan's dismembered body. Every newscast, every headline, every social media post carried the same chilling question. Who could commit such a heinous crime? The police were under immense pressure. Public outrage was growing, and the clock was ticking. Detectives began reconstructing Sandhya's last known movements. CCTV footage showed her arriving at a guest house in the city carrying her modest belongings. She seemed relaxed, unaware of the storm about to descend. But behind closed doors, a sinister plan was already in motion. Interviews with the guest house staff revealed that someone had been following her, someone who knew her schedule, her habits, her vulnerabilities. Every detail was disturbingly precise. Balakrishnan, her husband, became the focus of intense questioning. At first, he maintained a calm demeanor, offering statements that seemed almost rehearsed. But investigators noticed inconsistencies. He claimed Sandhya had returned home after a short stay in Chennai. He claimed he had no idea why she was missing. Yet traces of his movements, phone records, and eyewitness accounts began to contradict his statements. The calm facade was cracking. Forensic analysis revealed shocking details about the manner in which Sandhya had been killed. The dismemberment was done with surgical precision, indicating a level of planning that suggested premeditation. The disposal of her body across different dumping sites showed not only cruelty but calculated intent to avoid detection. Every step was designed to mislead the authorities to buy time. But investigators were relentless. Slowly, the web of deception began to unravel. Interrogations revealed more chilling truths. Balakrishnan had been driven by a dangerous combination of jealousy, control, and fear of losing Sandhya's attention to her budding career. Conversations with neighbors, friends, and extended family painted a portrait of a man obsessed with maintaining dominance. Sandhya's desire for independence, her ambition to act, and her refusal to remain confined to a domestic role became the triggers that led to the unthinkable. The police discovered messages, notes, and evidence showing that Balakrishnan had meticulously planned the murder days in advance. He had studied Sandhya's routines, coordinated the timing, and even selected the locations for disposing of her remains. Every step was executed with a cold, calculated efficiency that left the investigators both horrified and determined to bring him to justice. As the investigation progressed, shocking revelations about his accomplices surfaced. A few close aides had helped him at different stages, knowingly or unknowingly. Some provided logistical support, others turned a blind eye. The network of complicity underscored the extent of planning, showing that this was not a crime of passion in a fleeting moment, but a premeditated act carried out with methodical precision. The media's attention intensified, amplifying the horror across Tamil Nadu. Public opinion swayed between disbelief and outrage. Families of missing persons came forward, comparing Sandhya's case with their own unresolved fears. Social media became a battleground of speculation, theories, and demands for justice. Every new detail uncovered by the police was dissected, debated, and dissected again as the state's collective shock refused to subside. The most disturbing revelation came when investigators recovered fragments of a confession from Balakrishnan. His words, cold and unrepentant, detailed the planning, the execution, and the disposal of Sandhya's body. He spoke without hesitation, as if recounting a story instead of a crime, revealing not only the how but the why, a chilling window into the mind of a man capable of such calculated violence. By now, the police had built a strong case. Witnesses, forensic evidence, CCTV footage, and the confession converged into a damning narrative. The scale of the crime, the meticulous planning, and the cruel motive made this one of the most shocking murders in the region's history. But the case was far from over. Legal proceedings, public outrage, and the emotional trauma of the family created layers of tension that extended beyond the crime itself. Sandhya's family, while heartbroken, emerged as central figures in the pursuit of justice. Their determination to see the perpetrator punished, their courage to face media scrutiny, and their resilience amid grief kept the case alive in public memory. Each hearing, each revelation, became a part of a narrative larger than just one woman's life. It was a stark reminder of ambition, control and the fragility of trust. The investigation has exposed the horrifying details of the murder, revealed the depths of obsession that led to it, and brought the perpetrator into the harsh light of scrutiny. Yet questions remain. How will the justice system respond? What will be the ultimate fate of Balakrishnan? And what lasting impact will this tragedy have on Sandhya's family, the film industry, and the society that watched in horror as her life was brutally taken? The courtroom in Chennai was packed beyond capacity. Every seat was taken, and the corridors were lined with journalists, activists, and citizens desperate to witness justice unfold. The air was thick with tension, whispers of outrage mixing with the clatter of cameras and the scratching of pens. After months of investigation, arrests, and evidence collection, the stage was set for the trial of Balakrishnan, a man who had shattered not only one life but an entire family, and by extension the conscience of the city. From the very first day, the prosecution presented a meticulous account of the murder. Forensic reports, CCTV footage, phone records, and witness testimonies painted a damning picture. Each piece of evidence highlighted the cold, calculated nature of the crime. Sandhya had not been a victim of a fleeting act of rage. She had been targeted with precision, her autonomy threatened, her life extinguished in a premeditated act of obsession. Balakrishnan appeared calm, almost eerily composed. But as the courtroom sessions continued, cracks began to appear. Cross-examination by the prosecution exposed inconsistencies in his statements. Defense witnesses struggled to maintain credibility against the mountain of evidence. The pressure of the courtroom, combined with relentless media scrutiny, began to wear down even his carefully constructed facade. The most shocking moment came when Balakrishnan, cornered by the overwhelming evidence, decided to confess in full detail. His confession was chilling, recounting the planning, the execution, and even the disposal of Sandhya's body with disturbing detachment. He spoke of his feelings of jealousy, his fear of losing control, and his resentment toward Sandhya's ambitions. The courtroom was silent, every word hanging in the air like a guillotine. Public reaction to the confession was immediate and intense. Outrage, horror, and disbelief swept across Tamil Nadu and beyond. Social media exploded with discussions of the case, debates on the justice system, and reflections on domestic control, ambition, and toxic obsession. For many, the case became a cautionary tale, a stark reminder that obsession can turn lethal, and unchecked power in relationships can have fatal consequences. The sentencing was swift once the confession and evidence were fully presented. The judge, acknowledging the brutality and premeditation of the crime, handed down the maximum penalty. Balakrishnan was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. His accomplices, depending on their involvement, received varying sentences reflecting their complicity in this horrific act. The courtroom erupted in a mixture of relief and grim acknowledgement. Justice had been served, but at an unimaginable cost. Beyond the courtroom, Sandhya's family began the long and painful process of healing. Public sympathy and support provided some comfort, but the scars of loss were deep and permanent. The case left a lasting imprint on their lives, shaping their advocacy for justice, women's safety, and awareness of domestic abuse. Friends, colleagues, and the community rallied around them, vowing that Sandhya's story would not be forgotten. The film industry too felt the tremors. Sandhya's ambition and potential had been cruelly cut short, leaving a void in the hearts of those who knew her. Her colleagues spoke openly about the pressures women face in the industry, the subtle and overt forms of control they encounter, and the importance of vigilance against obsession and manipulation. In the months following the trial, discussions of the case inspired policy debates, awareness campaigns, and social initiatives aimed at protecting women and supporting victims of domestic abuse. Sandhya's story, though tragic, became a symbol of resilience and a catalyst for change. As the city slowly returned to its routine, the shadow of the crime remained. It was a constant reminder that ambition, love, and trust, when manipulated by jealousy and obsession, could lead to devastating consequences. Sandhya's life, her dreams, and her tragic death became a story that would echo in the corridors of justice, the hearts of her loved ones, and the conscience of society for years to come. The Sandhya Balakrishnan case stands as a chilling testament. The line between love and obsession is perilously thin, and when crossed, the results can be fatal. Her memory endures, a symbol of courage, the pursuit of justice, and the reminder that no crime, no matter how meticulously planned, can escape the eventual reckoning.